Good morning, welcome. It's Saturday, the 4th of July, and I've got lots to update you on today about the upcoming 26-27 modelers and also some important news about the valuation. So I'm going to go over kind of three main areas. So one is a brand new product called Plus, which is a really important add-on to our modeler offering. Next, I'm going to go through the 26-27 modelers that have got a completely new look, and then finally I'm going to go on to the 2024 valuation, which takes effect from 1st of April in 2027, and there's some important news in that, some of which we don't have the complete picture with, but I'll fill you in on that later. So onwards and upwards, let's move on to Plus. And so Plus is a brand new product, and we've been using this in the background, or this technology in the background, for the past year as part of our professional concierge service. But I've been, in the game of making self-service modelers for over a decade now, and the biggest challenge always has been helping people get the right data from the right documents in. And that's always been really difficult, being frankly honest, especially as things have got very complicated with things like McLeod. So what we're doing is we're making this as an extra optional bolt-on for people who want to be able to much more easily get the data off their documents. And there's no better way of showing you how it works than demoing it. So I'm just going to pull up a set of demo data down here, and so we're going to use this one first. Okay, so those of you that used the modeler last year, and 5,300 people used it in the 25-26 modelers, will know that the main documents that it needed were payslips and a total reward statement. So I'm just going to go through kind of each of the document types for Plus, just to show you how it works. So the first thing to note is that if you subscribe to Plus, you'll basically have it for the tax year. It will be completely locked down to you, so it will only accept documents in your name and your membership number. And you simply just drag and drop your documents, and then it will do the extraction. And then once you've completed all these traffic lights, the essential ones, which are basically pay slips and a total reward statement or an annual benefit statement in Scotland, it will go green, and then a button will appear, and then you can push that through to the modeler. So let's just go ahead and demo it. So let's just start off with this person, and let's just grab in a load of pay slips. Now it's asking for March pay slips and also an optional March 26 pay slip and a total reward statement. I've got all of that and a couple of extra ones. It will just automatically reject the stuff that it doesn't need. And you can see the gears are grinding as it's worked, and that's done it. So if we scroll down now, I'll just press this show further info. So we can see, so we've got some really useful information from the pay slips. So these black boxes denote the important stuff that's going through to the modeler. So we can see here we've got the March pensionable pay year to date, and that shows what the previous actual pensionable pay was. We've got a latest pay slip to do an estimation, and we're not yet in a position to be able to estimate total year pay because we need the first pay slip after all back pay has gone in. So that for most people is going to be at the earliest this month's payslip, the July payslip, which obviously hasn't come out yet. We've got the period pensionable pay, we've got taxable pay, some other useful things have been extracted, and also a calculated work time equivalent from your payslip. And then if we come down here, we've got some additional information that's going to be useful for the platinum service, for the forward-looking service. So we can see we've got on-call, we've got clinical excellence awards or DPs in Scotland. We've got car leases, additional PAs, etc. So the one bit we're really missing to be able to get through to the modeler now is information about your pension and your pensionable service. So we go back to this document folder, and we can see there's a total reward statement here. And again, if we just drag that into the box, and then we can see again, just in a matter of a few seconds, it's pulled all of that data. So the most important ones are here in this black box. So we've got the post rollback service, So this person's got 21 years and 147 days. This is their 1995 section, their 2015 section, but we've also got the alternative pension, the option B pension and lump sum as well. And importantly, we can see here that it's pulled through all of the pay history from the 2015 pension, and you can see it's also done some basic analysis. So for example, it's compared these payslip values up here to the TRS values here. So I can see here in 22-23 it's a match, but we've got a mismatch in 23-24 and 24-25, but because they're a balanced mismatch, we've got the same amount going out of 1 year into the previous tax year. We can see that that's the correct allocation of 24-25 pay. And when we were doing concierge last year, somewhere between a third and a half of people had that back pay misallocated, which could have led to paying too high a charge for 24-25 for growth that isn't real. So anyway, so that's the very basics of Plus. So just literally in a matter of seconds, without you having to manually enter anything, you can just drag your pay slips and you can drag your TRS, and then this button now has appeared, so you can send to your Goldstone Pen FinTech modeler, and then it will launch that with all of that data in it, so you don't need to enter it, so you can get to the answer much more quickly. So you will have noticed that there's a big long list of documents here. What we're trying to do is just trying to overcome some of the more common areas where people have really struggled. So let's just add in pension saving statements first. So you can see here there's two PSSs, so I'm just going to drag those in here, and again they're processed really quickly. These are original scheme provided documents, and again in the black boxes these are the key numbers, so we can see the growth in the 1995 or 2008 scheme and the growth in the 2015 scheme. But also importantly, it's going to pull over all of the growths from the carry forward years, because carry forward was one area where people really struggled with carry forward from the preceding period covered by the RPSS. Now obviously from these pension saving statements I've not got the full RPSS period in here, so we've also added that as a document that you can add. So again, these are original provided documents from the scheme. So if I grab in the RPSS, and I also can grab in an official HMRC extract here as well. And now if I go to the McLeod section, I can see that it's pulled in the RPSS here. So this is the kind of the side view of the no, it's not this down here, sorry, is the RPSS. This is the side view here, which has got the new and the old values for each of the schemes, and you can change the order if you want it to newest to oldest, or vice versa as presented, or you can just show the summary table. And then on the top here, sorry, we've got the HMRC extract of your pensionable pay, because that's going to be important for working out if you've got any carry forward. So this will calculate it knows your private pensions from the remedy period, it knows your growth from your RPSSs, and then so it can give you your total pension growth including private pensions if you've used any private pensions, and your threshold and adjusted income, and then it can then go forward and actually calculate the tax for you. So we can see here all of that data is being pulled through, and so if we scroll down to here, we can see that it's pulled through the threshold adjusted income, it's pulled through the pension saving, and you can see here that it's calculated if there was any tax charge. So this isn't going to process your RPSS for you for the purposes of reclaiming overpaid tax, for example. For that you're going to need ideally an ASMR accountant, and as you know I've partnered with Fulvis Mazars for that service, but this is just to allow you to be able to accurately work out your carry forward position, because that was one area where people had struggled. So last but not least, another important document for people is an 05 service and pay extract. Now this is really useful for people to get at least once every couple of years, just to check that all of their service record is correct. So if I go down to this thing called the O5 flat extract, and what this does is it provides some really useful analysis of that. So firstly, the O5 extract isn't actually in full chronological order. So the first thing it does is it shows you the O5 extract in full chronological order. It's highlighted in blue the McLeod period. It's highlighted any gaps here because the O5 extract doesn't actually show any gaps. But a gap even of a single day can affect the way that pension tax is calculated. So this extracts all of your gaps, it puts it in order, it highlights McLeod, and it will also do other things like highlight maternity pay, so you can check that that's correct, and highlight any duplicate errors, which is a really common cause of errors on a service extract. So as well as this kind of really nice view, so just another feature here. So stupidly, the O5 extract doesn't actually show where you were working. So if people are struggling to kind of understand the O5 extract, you can click any of these numbers and it will take you through and it will show you who the employee was for that period if they're in the NHS BSA database. So that's the full O5 extract, but it will also present it as a summary. So for example, it will combine employers if you've got multiple employees in a single year. So you've got this really nice view, so you can just go through and see what your total pensionable pay was, your employer pay. So if you've had mat leave, the employer pay will be different from the pensionable pay. It calculates your work time equivalent because again, your work time equivalent isn't directly on the O5 extract, but that does provide the most accurate way of calculating, and it will pull other things through like added years contracts, etc., whether or not you use the 1920 compensation scheme, and then it will do a comparison of what your calculated position is from your total reward statement to check that all of that is correct. Now I've kind of showed you the full features of what it can do, but if people just want the basics, they just need to do the essential bits. You just throw it, the pay slips, you throw it your TRS, and bang, you can launch the modeler, and you'll be there to estimate your pension tax. Now, just a couple more documents that it can take in. If you had a Forvis Mazars rectification for McLeod, you can just throw it the report, and then it will extract that for all your previous pension growth and all your previous taxable pay. But another area that people really struggled with is around calculating taxable pay. So if you want, you can use this to get taxable pay. So you can see for previous years, it's extracted taxable pay from the McLeod extract, the HMRC McLeod extract. You can get it from the Forvis extract, but obviously that only goes up to 22-23. So if you want to accurately know what your threshold income is based on your tax return, you can just click on here. It will take you through to your government gateway sign in. You can log on. You can it will take you directly to the page that will show you your pay extract for the years that you click on, and you can just print that to PDF, throw that to it as well, and then it will accurately give you your threshold income for previous years. So that is Plus, and I've shown you examples for England and Wales, but we've also been working hard to expand the offering. So I'm just going to very quickly just show you how that. I'll just close that one and just show you how that would work in SPPA. Now, SPPA, what do we say about SPPA? Their documents are in a bit of a mess, and I've been trying personally to help them improve that situation. I know colleagues in the BMA in Scotland have also been nagging SPPA to make their documents better, but their documents are pretty rubbish. The RPSS is a diabolically poor document. It doesn't show old growth and new growth. It doesn't show a load of the other information that's on in England and Wales and Northern Ireland. RPSS, for example, scheme pays. So it's just made it all a bit like pulling teeth for people north of the border. But also there's massive deficiencies in their pay slips that don't show, for example, how much pensionable pay you have each month to be able to predict what it is for the full year. And they don't have the O5 service and pay extract. So it's been a bit of an uphill battle building this, but I'll show you where we are. So for example, let's start off with some pay slips from north of the border. So you can see I've got some green lights there. I was going to do the show further information. So we don't have gross income on SPPA, but we can pull in year-to-date pensionable pay. We can pull in taxable pay. We have to derive the period pensionable pay. I'll talk about that in just a second. And it pulls all the other kind of Scottish specific stuff. So discretionary points instead of CAs, EPAs instead of APAs, and car leases if you have them, etc. So then the other kind of important document for basic pensional modelling is it needs to have an ABS. So some people only have a 2022 ABS. So if we copy that in here, it will pull it in, but it will just give you a warning that this is pre-McLeod rollback. So you can see this member had 9 years, 335 days before McLeod rollback, but then it will always take the most up-to-date document. So for example, if we give it an ABS-RSS from 2024, you can see the gears are smoking a bit because this is a scanned document. Out of preference, we don't particularly want scanned documents here. We just want proper scheme provided PDFs, but it will extract the data from them, but you just need to be a bit more careful that it's extracted it all correctly, because obviously the quality of scans can vary, and it obviously takes a little bit longer as well to do the scanned documents. But when that's done, we should see that this will update from this old ABS-RSS to the current version. The dangers of doing live videos. Is it going to work? I'll tell you what we can do. Let's move on to the 05 equivalent. Okay, so and then hopefully it will have done that by the time I do it. Oh, it's done it. There we are. So if we scroll down now, we can see it has now brought in this ABS-RSS to March 2024. So we can see now that legacy service has gone over there for the rollback, the option B, and then we've got legacy service and pension over here for option A. So the biggest area where we've struggled is again the England, Wales, Northern Ireland pension statements show you your pensionable pay going all the way back to 25, which allows you to build up a 2015 pension, but there is nothing as helpful as that on the ABS-RSS, so we need to get that data from historic data, and the only way that I found being able to get it from historic data is the CPRE exports. Now for some people CPRE goes back to 16-17, but very annoyingly not to 15-16, which is the beginning of the 2015 pension scheme, but at least that allows you to build up most of the picture. Some people it starts at 17-18. So I'm just going to drag in all of these spreadsheets, and again it will just kind of process them really quickly in real time. And now, so if I've called it the SPPA 05 equivalent because they don't produce that document, but you can see in an instant it's processed all of that data, and it will also work out if you've used the REC scheme. That was a recycling scheme in 1920 instead of the 1920 compensation scheme, and there was also a REC scheme in 22-23. So it will use all of that pay data, and it will identify what your opted out periods were here. So this person had 4 months out, and then they had almost 6 months out from the 9th of October, and it will pull all of that data. And if you can't remember what the REC scheme is and how it works, if you click on there, it will take you through to the policy documents. And then it will also provide a summary. So if you've got multiple employments, for example, as it did with the 05 extracts, it will provide a summary by tax year, because those are the amounts that are going to be needed for pension tax modelling. So that's the position in SPPA. I'll just show you again just the annual allowance bit. So, because there was a gap here in this person's service record, because the extract only goes back to 16-17, we have allowed a scanned payslip or P60. So for example here, if we pull in the P60, it will then populate that CPRE table with the P60 or payslip data. So then that does allow the full history to allow us to build, properly calculate a pension from 2015 onwards, to do accurate pension modelling, which is important. And last but not least, if people have not got access to the HMRC extract, but they have used Forvis Mazars for rectification, you can just copy in that report, and it will process it. And now, so that McLeod data has been populated from the Forvis report. So we've got all the taxable pays, your calculated threshold income, your updated pension growth, and your adjusted income. And again, it will calculate the pension tax position from that Forvis document. So, for example, here you can see this. If I just put show tax on, you can see here this member's got a 7173 tax charge in 21-22, and it also gives you a breakdown of how that tax charge has been calculated. Oh, sorry, these are the wrong amounts because I've not clicked Scotland. So unfortunately, you can see that tax charge has just gone up. And so we can see that that's comprised of some below the higher thresholds, some at 41%, some at 46% tax to make that tax charge, which then should match the figure on the Forvis Mazars extract. So that's plus. We think it's going to be incredibly popular. We're probably going to have to release it in tranches, and so we'll announce how we're doing that nearer the time when we're going to release the 26-27 modelers, and we'll just add documents to that over time. So I mean, obviously it's already really feature rich. It covers lots of different scenarios, much more than all of the previous modelers, but we just need to kind of finish it off with some Northern Ireland documents. And at the moment, this is kind of very much officer focused. Practitioners can still use this for things like pension saving statements, for O5 service and pay extracts, for HMRC extracts, for RPSSs, but we've not yet done the remaining GP documentation because obviously it doesn't have the equivalence of payslips, and so we're just kind of working through that. But we hopefully will release something for practitioners towards the latter end of this tax year. If not, it'll roll on into next year's. And so that's plus. As I said, you can just click through to your Pen FinTech modeler. Now, if you're like me and you always struggle to find all your own personal pension docs, and they're all in kind of different places on different computers, etc. Once you've gone to the trouble of uploading all of that, you can click attach documents as an encrypted zip, and then it will send it to you. It will send you the password in a separate email, and then you've got all of your documents in one place. So if you want to come back to it in future years, etc., you can. So that's plus. We think it's going to be incredibly popular. It's really kind of moved the bar forward on self-service pension modelling, because it takes that kind of error-prone bit out of it, which is accurately getting the data from all of your documents over. And so it will just make the modelers much more accessible to a much wider bunch of people, right from the kind of very basic essential documents through to the most complex documents, and covering the McLeod remedy, etc. So onwards and upwards, that's plus. And now I'm just going to give you a bit of a sneak preview on the 26-27 modelers. Now, for the last year or so, we've been aware that the 25-26 modelers have got really long. So if you've got all the options, concierge and gold was the previous upper tier, it produced a very long page, which was kind of a bit wieldy, and produced a 20+ page PDF report. So we've completely redesigned it from the ground up, and it's almost finished. It's just going through some final testing, but I thought I'd just give you a quick sneak preview now. So gone are the horrible emails from Calculator Studio that just had kind of all of the raw data in, so you just get a really neat email and then access your scenario button. And so I'll just give you a bit of a sneak preview of what the 26-27 modelers will look like. So instead of having that multi-page design, instead of having that single long page design, we've got a much neater, I'll just zoom in if I can. we've got a much neater multi-page design. So we've got some top tier menus that go through the different offerings: bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, and concierge / plus. And then in each of those, there's all of these. So if you want to use this in fully manual mode, you still can. So as per previous, you just tell it which scheme you're in, whether you're a GP or not. You can extract the data yourself from payslips, just the 22-23 to the 25-26 completed payslips. If you're in 2008, obviously you've got to give it payslip or TRS data going back many more years, back to the beginning of the 2015 scheme. Tell it whether you've got any added years or you had any disallowed days for consultant strike action. This just explains why your pension growth is your pension growth, so it shows you the changes in your pay, and then if you're in the 2008 scheme, it would also show how reckonable pay is derived. And then, as previously, you can work out your current pay once we've got a July payslip, so that'll be out in about 4 weeks' time, and then that will be able to accurately predict pension pay going forward. So concierge is kind of still being built, so I'm not going to go through that in any great detail, but all of the features that were there in the previous concierge. So for example, if people want to see their total reward statement but rehashed for the ages that they want to retire, they can do that in this chart here, and then so everything will just kind of recalculate to show the benefits that they've built up, etc. And similarly for all the payslip analysis, and all of the plus data is here as well. So you'll recall on the previous screens, I'll just zoom out again. On the back in the plus product, it showed you your tax charges up to 22-23, but then these lighter blue options here, it's then pulled through all of this data from the modeler, and then that will show you the amount on which tax is due, and then your AA tax charges here as well. And then there's all the other data that's come through from Plus, including if you prefer the HMRC style output, which personally I hate. I think it's very difficult, produces a very long page, but if you prefer that, it shows you the HMRC style output, but also shows you the tax in there as well, which the HMRC doesn't. But anyway, just kind of moving very quickly through the different options. So from 26-27, basic growth is going to be in bronze, so you can give it your official pension saving statements if you have them, and then you can choose whether or not you want to use the estimate or official value, and then I'll just zoom in again. Then you will get your basic growth as part of bronze. So this will show you your estimated pension all the way up to 26-27, your estimated pension growth down here, and then you can use that to calculate, for example, if you've got any headroom for a SIPP, or if you're going to have an annual allowance charge. As previously, the first tier to actually calculate if you've had a tax charge is going to be silver, and now we're just redoing all of this, so this kind of reflects the I'll just zoom out again. This reflects the previous data that was needed for silver, so it was asking you to estimate your taxable pay and private pensions, but the carry forward bit was manual. That's all going to go for people that have used Plus. What will come across is your threshold incomes and combined growth, and then it will work out the carry forward for you. So that's going to go, and similarly the marginal rates is probably going to go as well. So that's a work in progress. Taxable pay helper, as before, will just help you. Don't know what's happened there. Just incorrect values come across. Taxable pay helper will just help you work out what your pay is. The accountant view will kind of summarize everything in one nice view, so you can see here's the information that was previously in the basic bronze view, so you can see the input values that have gone in, your pay in both the 2015 and the 1995 sections, which may be the same if you're full-time, your estimated pension, your estimated pension growth, but then it will take your threshold income values and then take that forward to be able to calculate if you've got a tax charge. So you can see here in blue the member has got a tax charge in 24-25 and also a tax charge in 25-26, and what those values are, and what the split is for scheme pays. If I just zoom out a quick little bit, you can see what the values are to put on scheme pays. Application forms, which is a reminder for everybody, but now we're in July, we're approaching the scheme pays deadline for the 24-25 tax year. That was a brutal year for lots of consultants, particularly because of the pay awards. So if you settle a charge with scheme pays, make sure you get in your application form for scheme pays by the end of the month. We've got this 3-year summary view, which isn't quite finished yet, but again, that just shows a kind of really nice view of the current tax year. So this is the 26-27 tax year, and whether or not you've got a tax charge, whether or not you've got a tapered allowance, etc. Still just completing some of the charts on that to make that the same as previous. Now, for those people who are impacted by the tax trap around 100k, this is exactly the same view as previously. So you can, for example, tell it whether you've got a student loan and whether or not you've got Scottish tax. I'm just going to change that to, so this is a full breakdown, but if you go to less, we've got a slightly more compressed view here, just mag in a bit. So we can see what your marginal rate is. So for example, if you're north of the border and have got pay of £107,000 and you've got a student loan, you are not keeping a lot of your money. You keep 21.5%, which is just absolutely scandalous. But you can see where you are on these graphs, exactly like the IFS graph. So we've got this period where you can be better off earning less money, or you can fix that with a SIPP. You can do all of those sums here and then see exactly where you are on those charts by moving this line here to optimize your position and hopefully pay less tax. But I'll just remove that for a second so we can go back to the other views. And if you're using a SIPP, again, it will show you what your headroom is and whether or not you've got an AA charge. So for example, if I increase that to £50,000 into a SIPP, it will show you what the cost of the SIPP is, but then I've also introduced this annual allowance tax charge of £17,000. But this will kind of just show you how a SIPP works and how tax relief works, etc. So I'll just get rid of that SIPP for now. So that's silver, and then gold, as before. The main addition of gold is to show people what the cost of using scheme pays is. We've got 2 sets of graphs. There's a simple option and a more complicated option that breaks it down by scheme type, so you can see how much of your pension you would lose or keep by either taking early retirement or by using scheme pays. That's been a really popular feature. And we've got this advanced tapering analysis. So it's just remembered that £100,000 income from before. So if we just move this over and over to the taper deadlines. So again, for some people in some years, there will be a tax cliff. And that tax cliff means that if you go over £200,000, you can end up paying to work. But for this particular person, you can see that they don't even start to taper until they're earning £211,000 in this tax year. And that's why it's incredibly important not just to assume that there's, a cliff where, the world comes to an end at £200,000. Everything is dependent on you and your finances and your pension growth in that year. So if, because we've had a below inflation pay award for 26-27, that might mean, for example, that you've got a bit more ability to earn slightly more before tapering has any effect. So this advanced analysis will do that for you. One of the other documents that is a new document by the scheme. It will summarise your previous scheme pays, and so you can use the plus feature or concierge, and then that will pull all your previous scheme pays years, and then that will allow you to build a feature, a full picture of what your scheme pays indebtedness is, both historically but also based on the current years in the modeler. So very briefly onto Platinum. I did very briefly kind of show Platinum when it was in kind of early stages of development. So I'll just show you a little bit more now. So Platinum is going to be for all 4 nations. So you can pick which nation you were an appointed consultant is. This is a consultants only feature because it's about predicting your pay based on consultant pay scales. You can give it your appointment date. If you've got any CAs or DPs or national awards, you can put them in there, and then it will use that to calculate your pay. But then also it's important if people want to be able to model different scenarios, they can do that as well. So for example here there's a future change in pensionable pay of ending salary sacrifice on that date. So for example, if this person was to take out another salary sacrifice, they can simply copy that date in there, and then salary sacrifice is negative. So let's say the new salary sacrifice was £11,000, and I'll just add a note, new salary sacrifice. And then let's say they were giving that back in the 31st of October, then 3 years later, 2029, and then so it's going to be plus £11,000 salary sacrifice. And we can see that then that will map forward the position, so they can see what their pensionable pay looks like going forward, because that is the kind of the crux to pension modelling, is it needs to know what your future pay is going to be. So based on that profile that we've just entered, we can see here it's going to tell you what your pension is in each of the schemes at the ages that you want to retire. So unlike traditional pension reports where you tell them the age that you think you want to retire, you can if you have a bad day at work and think, right, I want out at 57 and I'm going to go fully at 57, you can just tweak these and it will show you what your pension is on that basis. If however you say, okay, well I want to partially retire at, let's say, 59, but then work 4 years through to 64, or 5 years even through to 64, you can tweak that and it will show you in real time what your predicted future pension is. The grey bars are pension. This is a 1920 compensation scheme which has come through from the plus. The dark blue is scheme pays, and the light blue is actuarial reduction. And on a similar vein, it can predict all of your future scheme pays charges, and if you use that new extract, it will show all the previous post-McLeod scheme pays, and then that can all be used to give an accurate forecast. And again, you can tweak all of this to see how that's going to affect any future scheme pays loans. On this one, your pay versus thresholds. So some people will be trying to creep in, for example, under the 200k threshold, and so depending on how much you work in terms of pensionable pay or non-pensionable pay, you can tweak all of that to see exactly where you fall on these charts versus these thresholds. So the red here is the 200k threshold. This is the additional rate tax threshold in England. This is the 100k tax threshold, where you have a higher rate. So they're the main ones that people will be interacting with, looking at peri-retirement finances and into retirement. Similarly, here we've got a 50-year forward view, but let's just change that to let's say a 30-year view. And again, so in blue we've got NHS pay from pensionable, in the light blue other taxable pay, and then we can see here we've got partial retirement. So we're now introducing this is 63 and 64, so there's not a big period. So let's put that back to, let's say, 59 and 64. So we can see here we've got a period where we've got NHS pay, we've got non-pensionable pay, so that could be additional PAs, it could be private practice, etc. And we can tweak all of these amounts to try and get to the income that we think we want to be able to retire on, and see what the gap is. And so that's the pensionable pay view. and the taxable pay view, and then finally we can go through to a net pay view. So if you tell it what your target net pay is, so here let's say if you want £6,000 a month after tax, and so we can see by changing all of these parameters if you're going to have a gap in income. So for example, let's say this person wanted to go to 70% in the NHS, and so you can put the exact values in here, 70% non-NHS, and go at 59 but still want £6,000 a month. We can see down here there's going to be a gap here of £1,780 net a month. So they've either got to take that out of savings or they've got to alter their plans. So for example, we can change that to work until 64 as taking away most of that gap, and we can tweak the amounts that we work in terms of pensionable and non-pensionable pay to get to the desired outcome. So that is the new modelers. We're really excited about them. That we think they look great. We unfortunately got some really bad news from our previous IT supplier, which is part of the reason why we've got over to this really nice view. So Calculator Studio, who we've been working with for 5 or 6 years with various projects, with my BMA hat on and also this, have unfortunately withdrawn the previous product. So that means the 25-26 calculator will stop working when Calculator Studio pull the entire service from August the 31st, 2026. So if people have got the previous tax year's modelers, obviously that tax year is closed now. So you've still got your PDF report, and that's got the URL link in it. But we're going to make sure that none of your data is lost. So if you go to your 25-26 modeler, you make sure you get an email back to you. So you've got your PDF report, which you've obviously got forever. But that also has in it a link, and then people will be able to copy that link into the new modeler, and then that will port all of the data across from the old modeler to the 26-27 additional modelers. So that's 26-27. In terms of timing, people won't be able to estimate 26-27 pensionable pay until we've got the current payslip from July. So at the very earliest, we're going to release these modelers at the end of the month, but we're still just tweaking and getting some external testing and validation done. But we hope that in about a month's time, both the Plus service will come out to a limited number of people initially, just while we get all of that tested in real life use, and then it will be rolled out more widely as an add-on to everybody else. So get in early if you want to try out Plus. So finally, let's move on to the scheme valuation, which is a really big piece of news and will impact people in different ways. So the headline is that the employer contribution towards our pension has come down from 2027 at 23.7% down to 15.5%, so a reduction of 8.2%. Now that doesn't change any of your benefits. It just means that the amount that your employer pays, or your employer plus the government pay towards the pension, has massively reduced by 8%. Now in some ways that number is completely irrelevant to you because you're in a defined benefit pension and it doesn't change the pension that you are getting. But it is important for a number of reasons. So first is the kind of the optics of the scheme. We get bashed quite a lot by certain sectors of the media and certain political parties for having a massively generous pension scheme, and 23.7% does look like a large number compared to the average private sector equivalent, for example. So that reduction in some ways is welcome. The other feature, previously when the rate did go up to 23.7 from 20.6, and then before that 14.3%, is that the net effect of all of that is it just meant that there's a very large surplus going back to the government. So, every year for the last 5 or 6 years, there's been £4 to £6 billion of surplus contributions after all, pensioners have been paid going back to Treasury each year. So that surplus will obviously come down massively because there's been a very large reduction in the employer rate. So I think the headline message is, for most people, don't worry about it. It doesn't change the pension you're getting. It's just a number. So, the magical number on the total reward statement, about how generous the scheme is going to go down because it's using 15.5%, but your benefit figure will not go down. For the vast majority of people, this makes no difference, but there are a few groups potentially that are going to be affected. So one current unknown is what happens to the difference between the new 15.5 rate and the amounts that the actual employers like NHS Trust pay currently, which is 14.3%. So when the rate initially went up in the COVID era, there was a big gap between the employer 14 or so percent and the then 20.6%. And so that was paid centrally by government directly to the pension scheme. And then at the end of the year, they paid it all back because it was a surplus. There was a bit of a merry-go-round of pretend money. But I suspect part of the reason that they didn't relax that, what was meant to be a temporary measure, was because at the time there was lots of talk about recycling employer contributions, and if the employer got the full 20%, then people would have said, well, we want the full 20% because the employers got it, and if we come out of the scheme, for example, that didn't happen. But for other groups, for example, GP partners, it's a little bit unclear as to what's going to happen going forward with this new rate of 15.5%, which is obviously much closer to 14.3%, and whether or not that is still going to be paid centrally, whether that's going to move into the payments made to GPs to pay those employee contributions, etc., etc. So there are a few unknowns about it. And then finally, following every valuation, as I highlighted last month, the key thing that's changed the valuation methodology and money has been the change in what's called the SCAPE rate. And the SCAPE, it basically looks at future growth of the economy. And because the SCAPE has gone up from 1.7 to 2%, that is going to change lots of other features of the scheme. So, for example, those of you, and I wear this t-shirt, that have got scheme pays loans will be paying more money because of the SCAPE rate rise, because scheme pays loans are paid at CPI plus SCAPE. So it was CPI 1.7%, that's now going to go to CPI plus 2%. And if you had scheme pays, when the last valuation was around, you will have remembered it used to be CPI plus 2.4%, and before that CPI plus 3%. So that just reflect that the scheme pays loans is a variable loan. So we only know what we know currently, and so that rate is going to go up. The other thing that will change is all the factors, all the actuarial factors. So, for example, early retirement factors will be tweaked slightly because of the change in the SCAPE rate. I suspect they're going to go slightly less generous. Things like scheme pays recovery factors will also change, and again they will be slightly less in our favour than they were previously, because of this change in the cost of our future pensions. So we won't know all of that until closer to April 2027. Obviously, our current modellers that look at scheme pays will or have already been updated to reflect the change in SCAPE from 1.7 to 2% from the 2027 tax year, but all the recovery factors and early retirement factors will be changed in the future, and so that's just something to watch. So thank you very much for your attention in what's a longer than normal video. We're really excited about all of these new products, especially Plus. So we hope people will be able to get their hands on this technology soon, which is really cutting edge technology that's never been kind of released to end users in the public domain before, so to allow people to take control of their pensions. And all of this is, ever since I've been doing this for the last decade, is about financial education. It's about people knowing their own numbers. It's about empowerment, so you can make informed decisions about what you want to do. So onwards and upwards, and keep on your the email list. We've got over 5,000 people on our email list. Obviously, if you're on that list, you'll be the first people to find out about all of these new products. So Platinum Modeler and the obviously this new Plus Modeler, and you'll be able to get your hands on it first. Many thanks. Bye now.